What the hell are you doing to my son? That was the first thing I heard, the words slicing through the hush of the nursery like a thunderclap. Arthur Moore, standing in the doorway, frozen for half a heartbeat. Then his face twisted, wild, as he took in the sight of Maya Williams, the maid, with his baby boy at her breast, her blouse loose. Humming like this was the most ordinary thing in the world, only it wasn't. Not in this house, not with this man watching, not with everything that came before Bryce. That tiny kid, finally quiet, finally full, cradled against a woman whose arms didn't tremble, not even as Arthur's voice crashed over her, demanding answers, demanding ownership, like he'd walked in on a crime and not a rescue. You know what I mean? Maya's eyes flew open, her body snapped tense, but her hand stayed gentle as she eased Bryce away, even as Arthur kept shouting, "Who said you could touch him? Feed him? Who gave you that right?" And Maya's voice was thin but steady. "Mr. Moore, please let me explain." And she really tried, but Arthur wasn't listening, wasn't seeing the desperate truth behind it. The days Bryce refused to eat, the hours Maya watched him wither, until she did the only thing left, the thing any mother might do if she had milk and memory and grief hanging heavy in her chest, was starving. She said he wouldn't take the formula. He needed help. Arthur, fists shaking, barking at her to shut up, spit flying, pride tearing through the worry. And then he hit her. Open-handed, brutal, the sound echoing off the walls as Maya staggered but did not fall. Bryce held tight, the room going silent except for the whimper of the baby, and for a split second it was like the world held its breath. Maya, hand pressed her cheek, not crying, just staring at Arthur, voice sharp and low. "How dare you? I saved your son." The shock in Arthur's eyes, the way his hand hovered in the air, like even he didn't believe what he'd done, and Maya's whisper cut deeper than any slap. "I know what it's like to lose a child. I lost my own 3 months ago. I did what a mother does. I acted." Arthur turned away, his anger melting into something messy, and Maya put Bryce in his crib, baby calm now, belly full, peace flickering through the storm. "I'll get my things," she said, and as she walked down the hallway, cheek burning, heart pounding, another maid peeked out, wide-eyed, but Maya just kept moving, silent, her bag half-packed like she'd always known this moment would come. She sat on her bed, air thick with regret and something close to pride, because no matter what happened next, she'd done what she knew was right. Upstairs, Arthur slumped into the rocking chair, staring at his hands, the hands that once held his wife, the hands that had just struck the only person who'd comforted his son in. He suddenly seemed small, all the power and money in the world crumpled by the weight of one reckless act. In the quiet, Bryce slept, the fight drained out of him, and Arthur whispered to no one, "What have I done?" Hours later, a knock on Maya's door. Eleanor Moore, Arthur's mother, standing there with tea, her eyes sharp, hair silver and twisted tight, her voice steady as she asked to come in. She knew, of course she knew. The butler had heard. The house is always listening. "You saved my grandson," Eleanor said, not as praise, just as fact, and the two women sat in that small room, the silence between them rich with things unsaid, pain, understanding, the way mothers know when another mother is drowning. Eleanor, never one for coddling, offered Maya a choice. Press charges, leave, stay. Maya shook her head. "He's broken. I know what that feels like. I just want to do what's right." And Eleanor, she nodded, respect softening the lines on her face, told her not to let one man's pain decide her path. If she left, let it be on her own terms. That night, Arthur couldn't sleep. The memory of the slap gnawed at him, replayed again and again, the echo of his grief exploding out in violence. The house, usually humming with order, felt colder, darker. Then, as if dragged by gravity, Arthur found himself in the conservatory, sunlight fighting through the rain-spattered glass, his mother waiting, her tone sharp. "You hit her. No excuses allowed. Only the truth. She saved your son, Arthur. She did what you couldn't." And for the first time, he said it. "I made a mistake." Eleanor only replied, "Then fix it." When Maya went to return her uniform in the laundry room, Arthur was waiting. No suit, no armor, just a man, exhausted, lost, wanting forgiveness he hadn't earned. He apologized, not for thanks, but because he knew he'd crossed a line. Maya, arms folded, wary, made it clear she didn't want pity or empty promises. If I stay, it's for Bryce. But you ever raise your hand again, I won't, Arthur swore. She nodded, neither of them saying more than needed. And as she walked away, he realized he hadn't just asked the maid to stay, he'd asked a woman who already knew what it meant to fight for a child, and maybe to save him too. The next morning, the mood had changed, subtle, but real. Maya moved through the house with a new weight and freedom. Bryce reaching for her, giggling, the tension humming underneath the marble and mahogany. Not everyone was happy. The other staff whispered, some glaring. Grace, the housekeeper with a mouth sharper than her cheekbones, threw jabs about playing the long game. But Maya only looked her dead in the eye and said, if I wanted money, I'd sue and own this damn house by now. She was done apologizing for doing the right thing. Later, Arthur found Maya in the conservatory. He spoke plainly, wanted to formalize her role, full rights, emergencies, everything. Maya, cool but honest, said, belonging isn't paperwork, mister. More. It's earned. He nodded, swallowing his pride. For Bryce. And as Maya walked away, she felt maybe for the first time in a long willy a piece of ground beneath her feet that she could actually claim. Eleanor found Maya outside in the garden that evening, the city's glow flickering behind the trees. You're a danger just for existing here, Eleanor said, because you stepped out of the place they wrote for you. That scares them. Maya asked, so what do I do? Eleanor smiled. You stand tall, especially when it gets worse. Days blurred. Maya discovered a hidden grave by the pond, a tiny, worn marker for Edward Moore, Arthur's older brother, buried in secret, his life erased for being different. The truth hit Maya like cold water. The shame wasn't his, it was the family's. Eleanor admitted it. Arthur confessed his own childhood guilt, and together, with Maya's help, they decided to bring Edward's memory back, to stop burying pain and start speaking it aloud. Even as the house changed, old wounds bled. The other staff, like Grace, lashed out with venom accusations, threats, but Maya held her ground. When the family's darkest secrets, the forced commitment of Edward, Claire's letters exposing the lies, Elaine the nurse's journal surfaced, Maya led the charge. Together with Arthur and Eleanor, she pulled the rotten roots out into the light, refusing to let the house slip back into silence. Their fight went public. Court battles, press conferences, pushback from the old guard, but the truth refused to stay buried. Arthur amended the family trust, restored Edward's name and Maya's guardianship of Bryce. Grace, cornered, finally confessed to hiding the evidence. As the world watched, the Moore family chose truth over legacy, pain over denial, action over apology. They built the Claire Moore Memorial Garden, an archive, a place for healing and reckoning. Strangers brought stories, families found courage, and Maya, once the maid, now the keeper of the legacy, carried the light forward. The secrets were no longer silent. The house buzzed with a new energy, one rooted in love, not shame. And on the opening day of the memorial, as Maya stood with Bryce in her arms and the winter sun poured through the garden's arch, she whispered, "This is what truth looks like." People wept, some prayed, and the air seemed to shift heavy with history. Yes, but finally ready to breathe. So now, I'll ask you, if you've ever wondered where justice lives, or what it costs to name the ghosts in your own house, share your thoughts. Who gets to decide what family means, or whose story gets told? Drop your comments below, because in the end, truth is only as loud as the voices willing to carry it, and today, we carried it together.